Good morning. My name is Rahul, and today I will presenting by individual service encounter review of Chatkazz Harris Park, an Indian street food restaurant located in New South Wales. In this presentation, I will evaluate my personal service experience using two important service quality work frame, the rater and circle model and the quality gap model. The rater model looks at five key dimensions of service quality: reliability, assessor, intangibles, empathy, and responsiveness. I will compare my expectations before visiting the restaurant with my actual experience. Uh, I will also identify the main service gap and provide some recommendations for improvement. So let's begin with a brief background of Chatkazz. This slide is about business background. Chatkazz Harris Park is located in Harris Park, which is well known as an Indian dining presence in Western Sydney. The restaurant specializes in Indian vegetarian street food and traditional Indian cuisine, with dishes inspired by different regional flavors of India. The main service provided in dine-in food service. Because of this, customers generally expect good quality food, friendly and professional staff, efficient service, and a clean and comfortable dining environment. The atmosphere is also important because customers are not only buying food, they are also experiencing the restaurant environment and the way the service is delivered. Based on these factors, I developed several expectations before visiting Chatkars. In this slide, we're gonna talk about pre-visit expectations. Before visiting Chatkars, I already had certain expectations based on my previous restaurant experience and the reputation of Indian restaurant in Harris Park. My first expectation was to receive friendly and welcoming service for the staff. Secondly, I expected quick and efficient service, especially because customers generally expect food to be served within a reasonable amount of time. I also expected the restaurant to be clean and comfortable. Another important expectations was good quality and authentic Indian food. Finally, I expected my order to be accurate and consistent with the menu description. These expectations became the standard I used to evaluate my actual experience. According to Parasurman, Zathimal, and Berry, customers use their expectations to judge the quality of the service they receive. I therefore use the rater model to compare my expectations with my actual experience. Reliability. The first dimension is reliability. Reliability means the ability of a business to provide its promised service accurately and dependably. During my experience at Chatkars, my order was prepared correctly and the food quality was close to what expected. The products also matched their menu descriptions and the presentation of the dishes was consistent. So, in terms of accuracy and food quality, Chatkars performed well. However, I noticed one important weakness during business period. The waiting time increased noticeable. This affected the consistency of the overall service experience. When the restaurant was less busy, the service was more efficient, but during peak period, the waiting time becomes longer. Therefore, I would say that reliability was generally met, but there is room for improvement in maintaining consistent service during peak hours. The second dimension is assurance. Assurance refers to staff knowledge, professionalism, and their ability to create trust and confidence among customers. I found this is to be one of the strongest area of my Chitkaz experience. The staff demonstrated good knowledge of the menu and ingredients. When I had questions, the staff were able to respond confidently and professionally. Their behavior was also cautious and respectful. This is important in hospitality because customers want to feel confident that staff understand the products and can properly assist them. For example, when customers have questions about ingredients or food choices, knowledgeable staff can make the customers feel more comfortable with their decision. Overall, I believe Chatkaz performed strongly in assurance. These dimensions meet and in some areas even executed my expectation. The third dimension is tangibles. Tangibles refer to the physical aspects of a service, including the facilities, equipment, appearance, cleanliness, decors, and overall environment. This was another strong point of my experience at Chatkaz. The restaurant had a like vibrant Indian themed atmosphere with colorful design elements, culture work, and warm lighting. The seating and layout were also reasonable, well arranged, allowing customers to enjoy their meal in a comfortable environment. Cleanliness was another positive factor. The tables and floors appeared well maintained, which contributed positively to my perception of the restaurant. According to Better Servicescape framework, the physical environment where a service is delivered can influence customers' perceptions and behavior. In this case, the physical environment supports to every overall Indian dining experience. Therefore, I would rate tangibles as exceeding my expectations. The fourth dimension is empathy. Empathy means providing caring individualities attention and understanding the specific needs of customers. During my experience, the staff were polite and approachable. When I interacted with them, they were also willing to assist customers with individual requirements, including dairy needs. This created a welcoming atmosphere. However, there was a limit during peak periods. When the restaurants become busy, staff had to manage several tables at the same time. As a result, the amount of personalized attention decreased. Customers could still receive assistance, but it was more difficult for staff to respond to the individual needs quickly. This can be considered a moment of truth because individual interactions between employees and customers can strongly influence the customer's overall perceptions of the service. Therefore, I would say that empathy was generally positive, but only uh, partially met by expectations during busy period. The fifth and final rated dimension is the responsiveness. Responsiveness refers to the willingness of employees to help customers and provide prompt service. Before visiting Chatkaz, I expected the service to be relatively fast. During my experience, staff were willing to help and responded personally, professionally. When I approached them directly, however, the main problem was the waiting time during peak hours. When the restaurant became busy, the service became noticeable slowly. This created a clear difference between my expected service and my actual experience. I expected fast and promote service, but I experienced a moderate delay. Therefore, responsiveness was the weakest rated dimension in my experience. This is also the main area where I believe Chatkaz could improve. This leads directly to my quality gap analysis. Service failure and quality gap. The main service failure I identified was delay service during peak dining hour. My expected service was quick and reliable. However, the perceived service included noticeable delay when the restaurant was busy. I identified this is an operations gap because there appearance to be a difference between the service standard customers expect and the way the service was actually delivered during peak periods. One possible cause is insufficient staff coordinating and resources planning during busy time. Another issue was the lack of proactive communication. Customers were not clearly informed about how long they might have to wait. This is important because even when a delay cannot be completely avoided, communications Communicating the expected waiting time can improve the customer's perceptions of the service. My recommendations are therefore quite practical. First, Chatkazz could improve staff coordination and allocate employees more effectively during peak period. Second, staff could communicate expected waiting time more clearly. Third, regular table checks could be introduced so customers do not have to rapidly ask for assistance. Finally, the restaurant could develop a structured service recovery process. For example, if a significant delay occurs, staff could apologize, explain the situation, and where appropriate, offers a small complimentary item or another suitable recovery actions. These steps could reduce the gap between expected and received service. A final evaluation. To conclude my evaluation, I found that at Cars Harris Park met most of my service expectations. Reliability was generally met because my order was accurate and the food quality was satisfactory. Uh, Assurance was one of the strongest areas because the staff were knowledgeable, courage, and professional. Tangibles were also a major strength because the restaurant provided an attractive and authentic Indian dining environment. Empty was partially met because of staff were helpful, but a professionalized attention because more limited during busy period. Finally, the responsiveness was the main weakness because of delay during peak hours. Overall, I had a positive service experience at Chatkaz. The restaurant already performed well in areas such as good food, presentation, atmosphere, and staff professionalism. However, improving peak hours operations and communication delays more proactively could make the service more constant. This would help improve customer satisfaction and reduce the quality gap identified through the rater or is circle models and the quality gap model.